Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm 34, and last summer, I found out just how disposable I was to the people I had spent my entire life trying to please. It started with a phone call and ended with me staring down my own mother in the middle of my backyard, while the smell of smoked brisket hung thick in the air and my 3 kids giggled behind me, oblivious to the drama unfolding. The call came on a Tuesday. I was helping Tyler with his math homework, fractions, his least favorite thing on earth, when my phone buzzed. It was Mom. I should have let it go to voicemail. Should have known better. But I didn't. Marcus, she said, not even a hello. We need to talk about the reunion. I leaned back in my chair, already bracing for whatever list of assignments she was about to throw at me. That's what the reunion always was, me working while everyone else posed for group photos and complimented each other's side dishes. I was the grill guy. The fix-it guy. The, oh, just ask Marcus, guy. I've been thinking, she continued, and I really think it would be best if your kids didn't come this year. My pen stopped mid-equation. What? She sighed like I was being unreasonable. They're lovely, Marcus, but they're, you know, very young. And loud. Last year Emma knocked over the dessert table and Noah cried for an hour. It was exhausting. She wanted something more refined. This year, more adult. And just like that, my children were chaos to be excluded. But, she added quickly, we still need you there. You promised to handle the food, remember? The smoked brisket, the ribs, those jalapeno things everyone loves. She tried to sweeten it like I was doing everyone a favor. Like this was normal. Then I heard Vanessa's voice in the background. She'd been on speaker the whole time. Yeah, she said, laughing. Just send the food, Marcus. Nobody wants a repeat of last year's meltdown. That laugh. That smug, casual laugh, like they weren't talking about excluding my kids, like they weren't treating my whole family like clutter at a dinner party. I told Mom I'd think about it and hung up. Jessica walked in a minute later, saw my face, and asked what happened. I think, I said slowly, I finally get what I really am to them. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there thinking about every event I'd funded, every crisis I'd quietly solved, every time I'd let them take without ever setting a boundary. By morning I had a plan. Not revenge. Not even a confrontation. Just a cookout. My own cookout. Same day. Same time. But this time my rules. No drama. No hierarchy. Just good food, open arms, and a place where my kids were not just allowed, but celebrated. Jessica blinked at me over her coffee. You're seriously going to throw a rival reunion? I smiled. Not a rival. Just an alternative. She grinned. I'm in. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. What followed was the most peaceful 2 weeks of prep I've ever experienced. Not because it was easy. We had to clean the yard, borrow tables, rent extra chairs, and I learned more about shade canopies than any one man should, but because for the first time, I wasn't working under someone else's thumb. I didn't tell Mom anything. I stopped replying to her texts. She sent 3 follow-ups about the brisket, then one more asking if I'd reserved the propane tanks for the smoker. I left them all on read. Vanessa called 4 days before the reunion. Her voice was clipped tight. Marcus, Mom says you're not responding. We need confirmation on the menu. People are asking what to bring. I let the silence hang for a beat. Then I said, I'm not bringing the food. She laughed. What do you mean you're not bringing it? You promised. I promised back when my kids were invited, I said evenly. Now they're not. So neither am I. Her voice went ice cold. You're going to ruin the reunion over this? Grow up, Marcus. Mom just wanted a calm day. Your kids are exhausting. Everyone thinks so. We were trying to be nice about it. I bit down the first 20 angry responses that came to mind. Instead, I said, then I guess you'll have a calm day without me. Good luck with the food. And I hung up. I stood in the kitchen for a long minute after, phone still in hand. Jessica walked in and wrapped her arms around me. I'm proud of you, she said. I didn't say anything. I just buried my face in her shoulder and exhaled what felt like 10 years of resentment. That afternoon, I sent out a text to a handful of people I trusted. Hey, we're doing a cookout here next Saturday. No drama, just food, fun, and space for kids to be kids. Come by if you want. No pressure. David replied in 3 minutes. I'm in. I'll bring the potato salad. Uncle Ron messaged later. Been looking for an excuse to ditch the other thing. Count me in. Aunt Linda sent back. Desserts are on me. By the end of the day, I had 8 yes. Not maybes. Not guilt-laden apologies. Just people who wanted to be with us. Jessica and I spent the next few days turning our backyard into something special. We hung string lights across the fence. I built a serving station out of plywood and old sawhorses. The kids painted a big sign in glittery letters. Family cookout, everyone welcome. I ordered brisket and ribs from the butcher. Prepped the bacon-wrapped jalapenos myself. Jessica curated the playlist. We filled coolers with soda and beer, set up folding tables, laid out checkered tablecloths. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't photogenic. It was ours. The morning of the reunion, I woke up at 5 to start the smoker. The sky was still dark. The air smelled like dew and wood chips. I sipped my coffee, watching the coals glow. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was preparing for someone else's approval. Jessica came out around 7 with breakfast tacos. She kissed my cheek and said, "Even if no one shows up, it was still worth it." I nodded. And then, people did show up. By noon, our backyard was full of laughter, the smell of smoked meat, and the sound of children doing what children do best, being alive. Tyler and Emma played tag with their cousins. Noah sat on Uncle Ron's lap, face sticky with watermelon juice. Jessica floated through the yard like a host at peace. And me? I stood at the grill, basting ribs, and felt something I hadn't in a long time. Respected. Then my phone buzzed. Vanessa. Where is everyone? Half the family's not here. Did you do something? I slid the phone back in my pocket. Not my circus anymore. By 1 o'clock, our backyard looked like something out of a dream I didn't realize I'd been having for years. There were nearly 30 people there now. Some had started at Mom's event and migrated over. Others came straight here. The grass was patchy in places. The tablecloths didn't match. And yet, this felt like family. I was turning ribs on the grill when I saw Greg walk through the back gate. Greg, who had always been glued to Vanessa at every family gathering. Greg, who once told me I was too serious when I asked if he'd ever chip in for something we'd all been roped into. Seeing him here was like watching a dog walk itself into a vet's office. He gave me a sheepish nod and said, "Hope it's okay I came." "Of course," I said, surprised I even meant it. He looked around, then leaned in slightly and lowered his voice. "I was at your mom's thing for like an hour. It was weird, man. Half the food didn't show up. There was no music. Everyone was just sitting." I smirked. "Sounds festive." He laughed once, almost awkward. Vanessa was trying to act like everything was fine, but people kept checking their phones. Then Aunt Linda posted a picture of this place in the group chat, and dude, 6 people just got up and left. Your mom was furious. What did she do? Greg scratched the back of his head. Started snapping at people. Accused Linda of undermining the spirit of unity or some crap. People were already in their cars, man. I waited 10 minutes and then dipped too. This? He gestured around at the yard, the people, the food. This feels real. He clapped me on the shoulder and wandered off toward the food table. That was when it really hit me. This wasn't just a cookout. This was a shift. A redirection of gravity. And my mother, who had always positioned herself as the sun at the center of the family universe, was realizing her orbit was no longer secure. More people arrived. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Carmen and her husband. Blake, my second cousin from out of state. Even Uncle Stephen, who once scolded me for airing dirty laundry, after I questioned how Vanessa had funded her 3rd vacation that year, showed up with a 6-pack and a quiet nod of respect. Every time someone new came through the gate, they said some version of the same thing. This feels better. Wish we'd done this sooner. Marcus, you did good. And then, around 4 o'clock, Jessica walked up to me. Her face was tight. She was holding her phone. She texted, she said. I didn't need to ask who. Jessica handed me the screen. Tell Marcus he has humiliated this family. This is unforgivable. I read it. Handed it back. She's coming. Jessica nodded. She won't let this slide. I was already walking toward the front of the house when I heard the unmistakable sound of her car, my mother's silver SUV, always pristine, always freshly detailed, pulling up with the rigid precision of someone who believed road lines were merely suggestions for lesser drivers. Behind her, Vanessa's black sedan pulled in like a second act no one asked for. But then, someone else stepped out of the SUV. A man. Older. Thinner. Grayer than I remembered. I blinked. Paul. My father. The man who'd walked out on us when I was 16. The man Mom had called a coward, a cheat, an unreliable ghost. He gave me a nod. I stared back, stunned silent. And then Mom approached, sunglasses on, linen pants pressed, blouse spotless. Vanessa flanked her, arms crossed like a bodyguard whose only weapon was judgment. Mom pulled off her glasses. So, she said, tone like acid, this is what you've been doing? Throwing a tantrum in your backyard while the rest of the family falls apart? I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just said, this is a cookout. You're not invited. Her jaw clenched. You stole my guests. You uninvited my kids, I replied calmly. You told me to drop off food and leave. What did you expect? Vanessa stepped in. You're acting like a victim. All we wanted was one calm day. One day without your children screaming and wrecking things. I took a deep breath. Looked at her. You don't get to exclude my kids and still expect me to work your grill. I'm not a service. I'm your brother. Mom's voice cracked sharp. You're being selfish. I laughed. Selfish? After decades of doing everything for you? Of paying for your repairs, your events, your last-minute emergencies? This is the first time I've said no. And this is your reaction? She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't done. I'm done pretending this is normal. Done being the background. Done letting you treat me like a resource instead of a son. Then Paul, Dad, spoke. Marcus, maybe we should just take a breath. I spun to him. You don't get to weigh in. You left. You don't get to mediate now. He flinched. Silent. Mom stepped forward. I brought him because I thought maybe he could help you see reason. No, I said. You brought him because you thought it would manipulate me. But I'm not 16 anymore. She hesitated. Then, voice softening, she said, people are choosing sides. This is tearing the family apart. I didn't blink. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you chose to exclude mine. Vanessa let out a bitter laugh. You know what? Fine. Enjoy your pity party. We don't need you. She turned and marched back to her car. Mom lingered. Her mask cracked for half a second. You'll regret this, she said. I met her eyes. No. I won't. She turned. Walked. Dad looked back once, eyes unreadable, then followed her. They drove away. Jessica was suddenly beside me. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. I nodded slowly. Yeah. I think I did. And in that quiet moment, with the scent of brisket in the air and the echo of old chains falling away, I felt something that had eluded me for far too long. Freedom. The backyard was still glowing as the sun started its slow descent. People lounged in folding chairs, kids tossed marshmallows into the fire pit, and the sound of soft music blended with laughter. It was chaos, sure, but the good kind. The kind you miss when it's gone. Jessica leaned against me, arms crossed, eyes on the crowd. So, she said, you ready for the fallout? I nodded. Let it come. And it did. Around 4 p.m., she showed me her phone. A message from my mom. Tell Marcus he has humiliated this family. This is unforgivable. I looked at the screen, handed it back. She's coming. Jessica didn't even look surprised. Of course she is. 10 minutes later, I heard her car, the silver SUV she treats like a trophy, and then Vanessa's right behind it. But it wasn't just them. My father stepped out of the SUV. I hadn't seen him in over a decade. Mom walked up like a general on a battlefield. Vanessa flanking her. Dad trailing behind like a ghost. Mom yanked off her sunglasses. So, this is your tantrum? I didn't flinch. It's a cookout. You're not invited. You stole my guests. You uninvited my kids. What did you expect? Vanessa sneered. We wanted one calm day without screaming children. I stared at her. They're my children. You don't get to keep the parts of me that benefit you and discard the rest. Mom snapped. You're being selfish. I laughed. No. I've been your ATM, your chef, your fixer for 20 years. This is the first time I said no. Dad tried to jump in. Maybe we should just. I cut him off. You don't get to mediate. You left. That shut him up. Mom's voice softened. You've torn the family apart. No, I said. You did that when you treated me like help instead of family. Vanessa rolled her eyes and walked off. We don't need you. Mom lingered. You'll regret this. I looked her dead in the eye. No. I won't. And then they were gone. Back in the yard, people were still laughing. Still eating. Still here. Jessica touched my arm and whispered, You did it. I nodded. Yeah. I really had. By early evening, the backyard looked like something out of the childhood I wish I'd had, messy, warm, alive. The sky turned amber, string lights blinked on overhead, and half-eaten plates of ribs and cookies littered the tables in the best way possible. People were lounging in lawn chairs, shoes kicked off, drinks in hand, conversations flowing with ease. It was the kind of calm you don't notice until you've lived through the opposite. I was sitting on the steps with Jessica, watching Tyler and Emma catch fireflies in mason jars, when my phone buzzed again. More messages. I groaned, already knowing. Jessica raised an eyebrow. Don't check it. I did anyway. It was the family group chat. Vanessa had posted a long paragraph around 6 p.m. Marcus destroyed the reunion. He manipulated everyone. He made it about himself, like always. He's dividing this family, and if you can't see that, then maybe you were never loyal to begin with. A few of her usual supporters chimed in, mostly relatives I hadn't seen in years. Mom had replied too. I don't know how we come back from this. I'm devastated. I scrolled lower, bracing myself, only to feel something shift. David had replied. I was at both events today. Marcus didn't manipulate anyone. He hosted a cookout. People left your reunion because they wanted to, not because he made them. If that's a problem, maybe ask why your event felt so empty. Then Angela chimed in. You told him his kids weren't welcome, and expected him to cater your party anyway. That's not how family works. Linda followed. I've stayed quiet too long. Marcus has done more for this family than anyone. He deserved one day where he wasn't treated like hired help. Then Ron dropped a single line. Some of you need to take a hard look in the mirror. Seconds later, his name disappeared from the chat. He left. And then Carmen. And then 2 others. I stared at the screen, stunned. Jessica read over my shoulder and whispered. They're not buying it anymore. I nodded slowly. Nope. She asked. You going to respond? I opened the chat. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard for a long minute. Then I typed. I love this family. But I'm not going to be treated like a resource anymore. My kids are part of this family. My wife is part of this family. If you can't respect that, we'll spend time with people who do. I'm not looking for drama. I'm just setting a boundary. I hit send. Then I turned the phone over and left it face down on the step. A few minutes later, David walked up with a second slice of pie and said, We doing this again next year? Absolutely, I said. People started saying their goodbyes. Angela hugged Jessica. Ron gave me a 2-finger salute. Greg actually whispered, I think I'm done with the other side of the family. By 8 o'clock, the backyard had thinned. Just us and the kids now. We cleaned up slow, not in a hurry. Noah was asleep on a blanket. Tyler helped me gather soda cans. Emma kept asking if we could leave the lights up forever. When we finally sat down again, Jessica looked at me and asked, You okay? I took a breath. I think I am. I wasn't naive. I knew Mom and Vanessa weren't done. There'd be fallout, icy birthdays, gossip I'd never hear directly. But that didn't matter anymore. Because this space, these people, this day, it proved something to me I hadn't believed in years. I didn't need to be tolerated by people who didn't respect me. I could build my own table. And fill it with people who were glad to be there. 2 weeks passed. The group chat stayed mostly silent. No one replied to my boundary message. Not Mom. Not Vanessa. Not the cousins who'd always liked to stay neutral. I figured that silence was its own reply, honestly. But others reached out. David invited us over for dinner the next weekend. Angela called and we talked for over an hour about expectations and boundaries, and how exhausting it was being the responsible one. Carmen sent a care package, actual homemade cookies, with a note that said, You were brave. Proud of you. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was connection. And that felt like something real. Mom didn't call. Vanessa didn't text. But Ron mentioned, casually, during a quick check-in, that Mom had been asking about me. Not directly, of course. Just floating questions like, "Do you think Marcus is okay?" And, "I wonder if he'll come to my birthday dinner next month." Ron told her, "You'll have to ask him yourself." She hadn't. And I didn't chase. One evening, I was out back with Tyler and Emma. We were stacking stones around the fire pit, building it up together. Noah sat nearby dropping pebbles into a bucket and giggling every time they clinked. Jessica was inside making lemonade. "Dad?" Tyler asked. "Is Grandma mad at us?" I paused, smoothing a stone into place. "She's upset," I said carefully. "But that's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong." Emma frowned. She said we were too loud. I pulled her close. "You're not too loud. You're perfect. Anyone who doesn't see that doesn't deserve to be around you." She nodded, hugging me tight. Tyler went back to stacking stones. "Kids are resilient. More than we give them credit for. They accept truth when you give it to them plainly." Jessica came outside with a tray of drinks. We sat in the grass together, all 5 of us, watching the sunset. Noah crawled into my lap, sticky with lemonade and happy as could be. Emma leaned on Jessica's shoulder. Tyler lay on his back and pointed out a cloud that looked like a dragon. Jessica smiled and said, "You know, I think this is my favorite version of you." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" she said. "The version that knows his worth. The one who doesn't apologize for taking up space." I laughed softly. "I like this version, too." We stayed out until the stars came out, talking, telling stories, just being. No tension. No pressure. No managing anyone else's expectations. Later, once the kids were in bed, I sat on the couch with Jessica and checked my phone. A new text. Unknown number. I opened it. "Marcus, it's Paul. I just wanted to say I was impressed by what you did. I know I don't have the right to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. You stood up for yourself. I wish I'd done that when I was your age. If you ever want to talk, I'm around." I stared at the screen. 100 responses passed through my mind: anger, sarcasm, silence. But mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of carrying the weight of people who'd left. Tired of measuring forgiveness like a currency I had to earn first. Jessica walked in, saw my face. "Who is it?" "My dad." She raised her eyebrows. "What did he say?" I handed her the phone. She read it, then handed it back. "You going to reply?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday. Maybe not." She didn't press. She just nodded and said, "Whenever you're ready." That night, as we lay in bed, she wrapped her arm around me and whispered, "We're doing okay, right?" I kissed her forehead. "We're doing great." I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling. Not because I was anxious, but because I was proud. Of her. Of the kids. Of myself. I thought about that cookout. About how real it had felt. How full. And I thought about the man I used to be, the one who would have packed up the food and gone to Mom's reunion anyway, just to keep the peace. I felt sorry for him. And grateful. Because he kept us going long enough for me to become this version of me. The one who knows where the line is now. And isn't afraid to hold it. A month later, Mom invited the whole family to her birthday dinner. I didn't go. There was no grand announcement. No dramatic refusal. I just did an RSVP. I spent the evening grilling burgers in our backyard with Jessica and the kids. Emma helped shape the patties. Tyler added too much seasoning on purpose. Noah kept trying to feed the dog uncooked buns. We laughed the entire time. Around 9 p.m., I checked my phone. One message from Mom. "I'm disappointed you didn't show." That was it. No apology. No curiosity. Just disappointment that I hadn't fallen back into line. I didn't respond. A few relatives texted that night. David sent me a photo of my mom's table half full, Vanessa sitting stiffly at the end. Angela sent a meme about choosing peace over obligation. I smiled, thanked them, and put my phone away. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Not bitter. Not burning bridges. Just finally walking on a path I chose. And that path led me here, sitting on my own porch, kids sleeping inside, Jessica resting her head on my shoulder, stars blinking quietly overhead. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe some people will come around. Maybe others won't. But here's what I know for sure. I'm not invisible anymore. I don't exist to keep everyone else comfortable at the expense of myself. I built a space where my kids are wanted, where I'm respected, where love isn't conditional on compliance. And that space? That space is mine. That's enough. It's more than enough. Always has been. Always will be.